Welcome back to the studio. Next to me is Andrew Markworth. Andrew, you marched with the Cavaliers
I did.
on snare, but more recently you've designed for the front ensemble in Crown, and last year you wrote the musical book for Crossman.
That's correct.
So there's a lot of experience sitting next to me here, and I just want to talk to you, Andrew, a little bit about Europeans coming over to the United States. You've had them in your core, you've experienced it. You've been over here in Holland helping out the company with their creative process. And basically the theme, part of the theme of today is the future of drum corps. So I want to talk to you with you about how people from Europe coming over to the United States is pushing the activity right here. First of all, from your own experience in the course that you've been in, have you had many Europeans that you have taught, or just a couple?
I would say each year there's usually a couple. It depends on the group, and it depends on the year, and depends on the section. But there's been quite a handful in some groups, and sometimes only one or two.
Yeah. Have you seen people that came over that now are in a position here where they're really pushing the course in the European activity?
Absolutely, and I think especially from a technical standpoint, there's just when you go over and say you march DCI, you're learning technique for 3-4 months in a row, and getting that daily routine, and that information then becomes part of a routine that can be adapted over here, and that information gets spread around, and you just see the technical aspect of things from that way, from the marching members coming back over, really spreading that information and improving the quality of the group.
Okay, you've been with the company for a couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel that from an artistic standpoint it has influenced the company, just getting that information from the United States? You're bringing information, but the kids themselves are getting information there also.
Absolutely. I think it is a very different activity over here, and I in some ways I like it more because you can, I think there are less boundaries, and there are things that you can do with the design over here that are just really creative and fun and all that. But I think just having the courage to explore those things, you learn that from just trial and error. And so over in the States, you learn that through experience, and then you can translate that experience over here. And hopefully it becomes successful a lot sooner with those lessons learned.
Well, it's great to be able to get experienced people like you over here to really help us find those boundaries and to go through them. You just mentioned the boundaries here are maybe a little bit more open.
Mm-hmm.
Talk to us about that. That's an interesting subject to me.
It is interesting, and part of it I think is that the corps come from so many different places, and so they have very different styles, which I think is a great thing. And so the way that they choose to do things can be very different, but I think that's rewarded a little bit more over here. It's also nice that you don't have the same groups competing against each other every single day in a row with the same people seeing them time after time after time. So you have the ability, I think, to make adjustments to your show. You have the ability to come out very different the next time you come out and try different things and develop ideas over that amount of time.
Yeah. Okay. You've been with the company for how many years now?
This is my 6th, so every year they've existed.
Wow, that's pretty amazing. How did you get first involved with the company?
Originally, I first got involved with a group called the Senators that isn't around anymore.
Mm-hmm.
In 2007, I wrote for them 2007, 8, and 9, and really it was just some mutual friends that had gotten to know them from studying abroad over here, a couple of my friends, and they introduced us at WGI. And then they put the trust in me to write the show one year, and since then I've developed some good relationships. So the company is formed. There's some people from that group and some people from another that I had met over here, and when they were putting it together, they asked me to do it and start a new group, and it was really exciting, and it's been fun ever since.
Great. Those 6 years, what has changed in your eyes in the activity over here? What has progressed? What direction do you feel that we're going in the European activity?
Well, I think what's going on over here now is that I think people are okay having their own voice. I think in the past, the European activity was very interested in what they liked about maybe older drum corps shows from America, and trying to play that game the way they did it. And I think nowadays you see people trying to come up with something creative, something unique, and something people haven't seen before. And I think that makes it a lot more exciting, and it makes the activity its own. Mm-hmm. So it's not necessarily trying to be something else. It's trying to be its own thing, and I think people I think the crowds are now responding to all the groups in a more positive way instead of maybe just their home team and kind of sitting on their hands for all the other groups, which I think is great.
Mm-hmm. In general, when we look at the U.S. and when we look at the European activity, and you look at kids like you have in the company, but also Kids Grove, U-Ball, Juliana, how easy do you think it would be for those kids to get into the drum course? Is there a level that is compatible, or do you think that only the most talented kids should try out?
I think anyone should try out. I think there's a level of talent and there's a level of experience in every single group. And speaking about the company, and I know this is sure of other places too, but the age range is quite vast. But I think that we design the shows so that we can include people in them. And maybe if they're younger and they're less experienced, their role in the show is a little bit less, but then they get developed, and as the years go on, they get bigger roles. And I think the more development of the corps, the younger corps, that's definitely a huge thing too. So I wouldn't shy away from any opportunities. If you're interested in wanting to march in any drum corps in Europe, I think you should just try to get involved and try to get to know people and go for it.
Great, great. Well, thanks so much, Andrew, for coming to the studio and talking to us a little bit about your experience here, both here and over there in the U.S. There's always a great connection going that we want to keep alive, and I think that is also part of the future in drum corps. Thanks so much again, and you can stick around while I'll introduce the next video.